Have you been wondering whether it's time to change career paths? Hi, I'm Jessica, your career transition coach, and welcome to Permission to Flow. So, this episode is all about figuring out whether it's time to change career paths. So, maybe you've been feeling like you need to leave where you are, but you don't know where you want to go. And you've been kind of toiling with whether or not it's really time to make that change. Change is scary for all of us. And so in this episode, we're really going to dive into some of the questions that can help you kind of determine if it might be time to consider a different career. A lot of this is going to be insights from my own path of changing my career, as well as some of the things that I've learned from working with my clients. So by the end of this episode, you'll get some great insights on whether or not a career change might be right for you. So we're going to discuss 3 key questions to ask yourself to decide if a career change might be right for you. All right, let's dive into today's show. So the first question to ask yourself is, do you like where your current path is going? And here's the thing is, regardless of how you ended up here, the question is, it's kind of taking back the control and putting yourself back in the driver's seat of your career path. I think so often we are kind of in this, I would say, passive role of how our career is going. It can be something where it's like you take whatever is presented in front of you, right? Like, or you've been influenced by the people around you. You've been influenced by maybe your family, especially for those of you who are from an immigrant background, there's definitely a lot of family pressure, right? About what is the right good career. And so it's not to say that there's anything negative about where we've ended up. And I want us to remind ourselves of that is like, when we're thinking about the path forward, it is not about shaming where we've been or where we are right now, but it's more like taking back the agency, like taking back our power and going, okay, at this moment in time, where do I want to end up? And so when you look at the path that you are currently on, is that the path that feels good to you, right? Like if you look at your boss and your boss's boss, like are those people or are those roles that you feel like you potentially might want to take on? Or is it like you are, do you want to work in different functions in where you are right now? Do those other roles like seem appealing to you? And I ask these questions because for me, like this was a big part of what kind of caused me to go, something's not right here. I remember looking around and going, okay, like I just don't feel that I want to become my boss. I don't want to become my boss's boss. I don't like the trajectory that I'm on. And I think that that's a hard truth to realize because one of the things to really remember here is like, as human beings, we often don't like change, right? We like to, and on top of it, we like to know where we're going. And it feels comfortable and we can settle into this level of comfort going, I know what the path is in front of me and that feels secure or safe. But I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, do you actually like that path? Because sometimes we can get caught up in kind of the rat race or this idea of this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is the way that I'm supposed to be moving things forward. And we will then therefore just abide by that. And so it's a great thing to ask ourselves, do we actually want that? Right? Do we actually want to move forward in this path? Are we actually putting forth all of this time, energy, attention into getting that promotion? Do we actually even want it? Right? It's so interesting how often we can get caught up in this idea of chasing after something that we might not actually want. I know that can be like kind of a hard truth right there. But I think it's so important to actually take back that control, right? Because it's so easy to get caught up in the supposed to's, in the shoulds, right? Like I am a good worker and therefore I should want the promotion and therefore I should want to become the director and then the VP or the CFO in my case, like it becomes this kind of ingrained thing that this is how things have been laid out. This is how we're supposed to move forward. And therefore we tell ourselves like it is the right path for us. And I want you to give yourself the permission to actually go, is this it? Is this where I want to be continuing on? Instead of just being on autopilot, instead of just doing what you're supposed to do. Because all of these shoulds, all these supposed to's are they're hindering us from what we actually want, what we actually need. Like it's this ability to go like, this isn't actually for me, and being okay with that. And I know that can seem scary because, again, we like to have the comfort of going, this is the path, this is the way forward, we know where we're heading, and everything's nicely laid out for us. And it can feel really disrupting when you go, oh, but I don't really want this. But that's okay. We're gonna dive into all kinds of stuff around that in future episodes. So don't you worry. But first and foremost, I want you to look at that. Look at whether or not you like where this career path is going. Okay, so now that we've talked a little bit about whether or not, or how you're feeling about the path that you're on, let's ask a second question now. So the second question is, do you feel like you're really sitting on all these skills and these talents? Do you feel like you're really being, that your best self is being put forward in the work that you're doing? And I know a lot of people are going to go, well, that's not what a job is for. All right. People are allowed to think that. If you want to go, and the thing is, I think that some people, it's fine, right? If you feel like you are someone where you're like, I don't care if my job is really fulfilling me, then maybe this episode isn't for you, right? And it's totally fine, like being that way. It's interesting because I've been encountering, I have friends, I have, different people around me that I'm like, they're perfectly content where they are. And I love that for them. I love that for them. I want that for everyone. I want them to feel happy and content. Like, and this is really for the people that are going, I don't feel that, like those are my people. So that is how I felt. Like I would sit there and I see that reflected in my clients, right? Where it's like, like one of my clients would tell me, like when we first met, it was so interesting because she really wanted to be doing something else. And she had just gotten laid off from a job, but she was still fighting it, going like, oh no, like I'm just gonna, rinse and repeat, go for the same type of work. Even though deep down inside, she was like, I absolutely cannot stand what I'm doing. I don't want to keep going down this path. Even when they offer me new opportunities, I'm not interested in them. Ooh, that's a good sign, right? Like when you're like, oh, they really want me to do better here, and you yourself do not want to do better here. Like, how wild is that feeling, right? Where it's like, even when the opportunities come, they don't feel good. So that's the thing, is like that feeling of when you're sitting in your job, it's like, do you want to be doing better at your job? Do you feel like you like have that you really would rather be doing other things, of using your skills in somewhere else? Those are such great questions to be asking yourself. Another thing that I would think about oftentimes when I was in my job, and I see a lot of my clients see this too, it's this feeling of I have I don't want to get better at what I'm doing. That's a big one, right? And I remember thinking that. I was like, I don't actually want to learn how to be better at my job. Like, it's just not working for me. I don't want to go and take an Excel course. I don't want to become better at managing, at budgeting and forecasting. Like I'm doing fine. Like I'm good at my job. And that's a trap that you can get in, right? Is like, you're good at it, but do you actually want to be there? And I would constantly sit there and be like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to progress. I don't want to learn more and become a better version of a finance manager. Like, it's just not for me. And so it's like this like side, these two sides, right? Where you're like, I don't want to invest more time and energy towards becoming better at what I do. And I know I have so many other talents and skills. And so much of our identity can get caught up in our jobs that we can often think to ourselves, this is what I'm good at. And like that's what's most important, right? Like you probably are, like there's a reason why you're doing what you're doing right now. Like you're probably pretty good at it. But being pretty good at something and actually wanting to really flourish in that are two different things. And that's the thing that we want to really be thinking about, is whether or not we're really utilizing the things that are like feel good to us, right? Like, yes, I'm good at numbers. Yes, I can pull together a spreadsheet in an amazing way. Yes, I had all these great skills, but like sitting around fixing the spreadsheets all day long is not what I want to do with my time. And yet on the other side of that, I was going, I know there's something to, for me, it was like, I know there's something to the fact that like I'm such a big people person, that I am great at building connections with people. And one of the biggest ones for me is like, I know I have this, I don't know, this thing about me where I'm really good at holding space for other people and allowing them to really be able to be vulnerable with me, you know, be able to say things that they may not feel comfortable with other people. Like I hold a very like non-judgmental space for people. And I've noticed that as like a pattern with myself. And I could see how those things were not really cared for in my job, right? Like nobody cared that I had these skills. And I was like, I know so there's something there. Like this isn't how, these aren't skills that everyone has, but they're skills that I have. You know, I have other clients where it's like they have these skills, they have these things about them, these talents, these creative things that they know deep down inside are like amazing. And it's like, well, we stop ourselves from really being able to embrace those parts of ourselves, and we go, all right, I gotta be buttoned up version of myself and like show up to work and like do a good job and like be able to be the cookie cutter version of whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing. And I love to challenge people on like, what if life is meant to be more than that? What if life is meant to be more than just being a masked version of yourself all through your day? And how tiring is it to not be able to be yourself all day long and be like, okay, gotta put on my mask and like show up to work and button myself up. It's exhausting. And so if these things are ringing true for you, if all these things that I'm talking about are going, oh yeah, that sounds true, then you know that's what this conversation is all about. So that's the thing, is it's really looking at what are my skills and talents, what are my interests, like are these things I really want to grow and flourish in, and really sticking to this path, or maybe I'm meant for something else. And something I want to address really quickly here is, I get it. Like it, again, it can be really scary around being able to make a big change and really pursue something that feels right for you. And what I will say to that is, what if you can just start building it on the side? Like, what if you can give yourself permission to spend an hour a week just toe dipping your way into something that actually does really light you up? What would that feel like? And it's not that we have to burn everything to the ground that we're sitting in right now. We don't have to jump off the cliff. We don't have to do any of these things, but we can open ourselves up to possibility. So that is what I'm inviting you into in this conversation. So the last thing, now that we've talked about, do you like where your path is going? Do you feel like you're sitting on your true talents and your skills? The last question that we want to talk about is, do you feel like you've tried every option and you're still getting the same result? This one, I've helped a lot of people with. If you are sitting there going, I don't like what I'm doing, then ask yourself, like, what have you tried? And even if you're going, a whole career change seems too scary, it's like, well, then let's try all of our different options. And I think that this often can be a really important process that we need to go through in order to feel like, okay, we've exhausted our options. Like, let's maybe now try something else. But maybe you've already exhausted your options. And so the thing that I like to look at is like, have you tried, have you scoped out like changing companies, changing roles, changing functions? Like I remember for me, it was like when I was working in finance, I worked at every type of company. I worked in a big company, I worked in a small company. I tried different finance areas. I really looked into changing functions, although that was a harder shift to potentially make, but I scoped it out. I talked to different people. I really had a lot of conversations with people in different functions, understanding like what their work looked like. And I really put forth a lot of effort of digging through all these different um, ways of going about things. And so I exhausted my options, if you will. And I think that's why like I could comfortably go like, all right, maybe it's really time to make a change. You don't have to go through this entire exhaustive process, or you can go through it through conversations. As I said, like it doesn't have to be you literally going through and taking every single one of these jobs, because that is a lot of time, right? Like you can just have conversations with people in different roles, just get a better understanding of like what would that look like. And to me it's like I think it's very important to realize like there's a lot of doors, and sometimes we can get very narrow, and it's like, all right, like we have to look at different levels of shifts, right? Sometimes we have to start and go, all right, let me try all the different doors that I can see in front of me first. And then when I've exhausted all those doors and I'm like, all right, now what? Then it's like, all right, where's the window? What is the other thing that you can look at and go, okay, here's another option. Maybe this could work. And scope that option out. We don't have to think like it's only this one way. And that's the thing, that it's really allowing ourselves to look at all different options. And so beyond the scope of within the thing that you're doing, like when do you start thinking like maybe there's something else? Here's the thing. It's like sometimes it will be that none of those doors are opening. So one of the like I think what it took me to really make the change is really this feeling of like none of the other doors are opening. I was like, I have tried to, as I said, change roles, change functions, change companies. Like I've tried all these things. And it's that saying like insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I finally hit that point where I was like, I have reached insanity. Like I've tried them all, I've done so many different things, and I am still hitting the same wall. And I think that's what started to open my eyes of, all right, maybe it's time to look into some other options. Maybe it's time to scope beyond finance for me. And so for me, it came down to needing to have tried all those doors and feel like nothing was working. And the thing is, like, I was applying for jobs externally, I was applying for jobs internally, I was trying different functions, I was really putting forth all this effort while being burned out, mind you, which was not helping. And it was like nothing was working. And I was just like, sometimes it's like, maybe that's the sign. Maybe there's a reason why none of those doors are opening. And maybe we have to keep knocking and, hitting our heads against the wall sometimes to wake up and be like, oh my God, like this just isn't working. It doesn't always have to go that way. Sometimes it's just like, deep down inside of you that this is not going to work out. And I think that this is the other side of it, is like, for years I had a gut feeling that I did not belong in finance anymore. And that's why for years I was trying to find other options. But I kept going back because it felt safe and secure. And it was just sitting within me, this feeling of like, there has to be something else. Like, this can't be all that I'm meant to do. Like, I can't imagine doing the same thing for the next 30, 40 years of my life. And it was really when I finally listened to my gut and I went, okay, maybe it's time to give something else a try. And I will say, like, I'm very fortunate. I have wonderful people around me, who have supported me through this whole complete career change that I went through. And it's interesting because I got to give a little shout out to my best friend, because I remember for a while, like, she had asked me, like, do you consider something else? Do you consider something beyond finance? And I remember, especially, I got laid off before from a job, and I spent some time during the time I was laid off going, okay, let me, like, look into other options, but I still ended up back in finance. And so it took me, like, really hitting burnout, really hitting this wall and going, maybe it's time to really consider other options. And so I'm really thankful to her for, like, poking at me and going, what about now? You know, have you really thought about something else? And I think that helped me kind of spur myself on, alongside that gut feeling, and alongside that deeper inner knowing of, this can't be it. This can't be all I'm going to do for the next 30, 40 years of my life. So yeah, so maybe it is time for you to check back in with yourself and go, has there been that little voice that's been kind of sitting in the background that I keep pushing away, going, oh, now's not the time. Now's not the time. And you keep doing it over and over again. Like, what if you listen to that voice? What if you listen to that voice that's been telling you, this isn't it? This isn't it. There's something better for you. And so it's like giving ourselves the opportunity to go, what else could be out there? What if we allowed ourselves to think outside of this one lane that we've been sitting in, and going, like, this, like, I have to make this work, right? It's interesting because I was thinking about it. So it's funny, like, the word resilience, I think resilience is an incredible, important skill. And I think it can also keep us stuck sometimes, right? Where we can be really dogged in saying, I have to make this work. This is what it's supposed to be, right? That's supposed to. I need to make this work. And it can keep us stuck where we're going, well, it's working for everyone else. Like, why can't it work for me? And we want to just go with the grain, right? We want to go with the path that everyone else is going on, especially if you're looking around you and everyone else seems perfectly happy going in this direction, and you're going, why do I feel this way? Well, I will tell you, you're not alone. I felt the same way. I remember looking around and I'm like, all my coworkers seem perfectly happy going down this path, and yet I'm still sitting here going, I can't do this. Like, I'm dragging my feet into work, like something's not right. And maybe I'm the only one that feels this way. Well, you're not. You're definitely not the only one that feels this way. I will tell you from my clients, from countless people that I talk to, you are not alone in feeling like you do not belong where you are. And it's like, it might take us some time, but it's like being able to sit back and notice that inner truth and go, okay, it's okay that I feel this way. It's okay that I don't feel like I fit in here. It's okay that this might not be where I belong. I'm going to figure it out. But the first thing that I need to do is be okay with the fact that I don't belong here, and that's okay. So I hope that this has been helpful. And so the three things that we've really talked about in this episode is, do you like where your current path is going? Do you feel like you're sitting on your true skills and talents and that you're not able to show up as your full self? And do you feel like you've tried every option and you just keep getting the same result? So if these questions are starting to stir up a lot of thoughts in your mind and you want some help in determining whether a career change could really be right for you, then I invite you to book a free sales call with me. You can go into the link in the show notes, and it would be my pleasure to help you navigate this big question. And I want you to remember you are not alone in this journey. And, I'm here to support you and help you along the way. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Permission to Flow, and I will see you on the next one. Want to create more flow in your life? Go to the description below and sign up for the email list. I'll be sharing more insights and strategies with you, just like the ones you heard today. Remember, the power to create the life you desire resides within you, and I'm here to support you every step of the way. The world needs what you will create.